in the game. In the game.
What is going on? Happy Tuesday. We're getting closer to Friday. We're almost there, and we are almost to Saturday, which means the Final Four is going to go down. Cannot wait. But man, what a day of NBA basketball today. There wasn't a ton on, but there was a lot of storylines going on. Obviously, Joel Embiid versus Giannis Antetokounmpo. Two guys that are firmly in, I would say, the MVP race. I'd probably put Jokic and Embiid ahead of Giannis at this point. But Giannis really made a case tonight. Had a phenomenal game, like he always does when the moment is big. 16 of 24 from the field, 40 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, and my guy just went bonkers in the fourth quarter, including a game-saving block on Joel Embiid. And on the flip side, Joel Embiid, he struggled. He struggled really early on, 1 for 9. The presence of Brook Lopez being back for the Bucks was massive, and you could just see how important he is anchoring that defense. And it was a great game. James Harden had a good game too, 32 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds. And, it's two teams battling for the East. We're coming down to the end of the season here, and the East is very, very, very tight right now. Miami holds a slight lead for the number 1 seed, only a half a game ahead of Milwaukee. Boston right behind them, a game behind, 47 and 29. And really, I think these teams are positioning themselves or trying to position themselves to avoid Brooklyn in the first round. I think that's very important. And if you're the 1 or 2 seed, you could very well get stuck playing Brooklyn. But Brooklyn, they can possibly move up to that 6 seed. Going to be very tough, especially because Toronto's playing very well. They're 8-2 in their last 10. But really, the thing that I really wanted to touch on is Giannis and this crazy narrative of Giannis. And it's like, no matter what he does, the national media, the basketball media, the general consensus of fans do not look at Giannis as the best player in the league. And I cannot understand why. Like, he has done everything. 2-time MVP, 1-time defensive player of the year, probably going to win another defensive player of the year this year. Arguably one of the best weak side defenders this game has ever seen. Last year in the playoffs, dropped 45 points in a Game 7 against Brooklyn to carry Milwaukee, and really carried the Bucks throughout that whole postseason because Drew and Chris were really inconsistent on a night-to-night basis. They were never consistent the entire playoff run. But Giannis was that one consistent piece. And then in the NBA Finals, after tearing his patella tendon, the guy goes out there and averages 35, 13, and 5, including a 50-point burger in Game 6 to claim the championship. And we're still sitting here, and I hear stuff like this. So this was Candace Parker and Dwayne Wade on TNT today. I want you guys to take a listen to this, and then I'm gonna react to it.
When you won the game, I'm not talking about against.
Amazing how it changes.
No, I'm talking about Kevin Durant.
I know, but his toe was on the line.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's why
Then
we're
it's a
talking
wrap.
about
We
him
have
so
a different
different.
conversation.
If his toe was not on the line, Shaq would be sitting here talking about KD.
I'm not betting
but
against
because
KD.
his
I'm
toe
sorry.
is on the line, we're talking about Giannis. Do you? It's crazy.
The crazy part. I respect Candace Parker. I really do. I think she's really good at the media job. I think she does a very wonderful job. But I expect more from her in this respect. You say, okay, it's crazy that we're only talking about Giannis because of KD's foot. Well, why aren't we talking about Giannis for what he did even up to that point? Like, the Bucks had no chance in that series if Giannis doesn't go bonkers like he did. they would have been blown out. And this is like this is continual. I mean, in that series, my guy averaged 31 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists a game on 57% shooting. And we're sitting here talking about, we are only talking about Giannis because of KD's foot being on the line. And then he goes on and does what he does in the finals. I mean, at this point, it's like, what does this man have to do to garner respect from the basketball media to be crowned the best player in the league? Because he's playing like the best player in the league. He's done it for numerous seasons. He won a title. And people will argue, okay, Kevin Durant's the best player. And I get it. Kevin Durant's the best scorer I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've watched Michael Jordan play. I watched Kobe Bryant play. He's the best scorer I've ever seen. He does it with ease. But he does not affect the game on both ends like Giannis Antetokounmpo does. Giannis defensively, like I said before, he's one of the best weak side defenders this league has ever seen, the world has ever seen. He erases so much mistakes from the wing play, or just in general, like when it comes to scrambles and stuff. Giannis can get there and he can switch everything because he is a good one-on-one defender too. But what he really thrives at, and you saw it in the finals last year when he blocked Ayton's shot, excellent weak side defender, excellent rim protector. I mean, the guy's 7 feet with a 7'4" wingspan. And his offensive game now is becoming way more well-rounded. The guy's averaging 30 points per game, and all we talk about, he's averaging 32 points per game now, and all we talk about is, well, he doesn't have a jump shot. It's tiresome because he does have a jump shot now. He's not shooting like KD, obviously. That would be crazy to expect, but he's shooting respectable numbers, 42% from 3 to 10 feet, 41% from 10 to 16 feet, and from 16 to 3-point line, he's shooting 42%. Like, those are respectable numbers when you're shooting a jump shot. And then obviously around the rim, he's shooting 80%. So once he gets around the rim, it's a wrap. Like, you don't want him to get there. And what he's really doing better, and what he struggled early on last year, was really recognizing double teams before they came and finding his teammates for open shots. And he's doing that at a very high level now. His playmaking has improved. I mean, the guy comes in every single year and improves at something. He gets better at something. And we're sitting here saying Giannis isn't the best player in the world. At this point, I think, I don't want to throw this out there, but I should throw it out there. I think there's a lot of xenophobia in amongst the basketball world, because basketball is an American game. Like, Americans have always been the best basketball players on the planet. And here, Giannis is, he's probably arguably the first European player, first non-American that you can honestly say is the best player in the world. And I feel like we're afraid to admit it. And when I say we, I mean the American basketball media, from Stephen A. Smith to Candace Parker to Kendrick Perkins, who was calling Chris Middleton Batman last year, even though Giannis was averaging 35 points a game in the playoffs. I mean, it's just, at this point, it is absolutely insane.
That is one big pile of shit.
Yes, it truly is. And it's time we put some respect on Giannis's name, because what he's doing is absolutely incredible. And if he wins another title this year, what else can he do, to get that moniker? And I know that he's not playing to be the best player in the world. It probably does drive him a little bit. He'll never say it. He'll never admit it, because he's a very humble person. But I will sit here and I will defend Giannis. I got your back, bro. I will ride or die with you, because he is the best player in the entire world right now. Which brings me to a player who is not the best in the entire world right now, and that's Russell Wilson in the Los Angeles Lakers. So, I mean, if you've been living under a rock, the Lakers season has been an absolute, utter disaster. They lose to the Dallas Mavericks tonight. They fall out of playoff contention. They're 31-44. Right now, San Antonio is slightly ahead of them in the play-in game, number 10 seed. And I just don't see a light at the end of the tunnel for the Lakers. This is a team that was 54.5 over under. I said on Taproom it was my favorite over under futures of the entire preseason. Under 54.5 Lakers was money, dude. Like absolute money. And yeah, sorry, seeing some tweets come in here. But yeah, the Lakers under. I mean, to me, it was just like you throw Russell Westbrook in there, and we knew all along. Anybody that watches basketball knew that Russell Westbrook was not going to be a good fit with this team. Now, I thought for sure they could make it work because LeBron and Anthony Davis are that talented, and then obviously we thought more highly of Talen Horton-Tucker. When I say we, again, I mean everybody, consensus, like basketball fans, media, like anybody that really follows the game closely. I mean, Talen Horton-Tucker was a guy that the Lakers didn't trade for Kyle Lowry last year when they had the opportunity to do so. That's how highly they thought of Talen Horton-Tucker. And I mean, he's been a disaster this year, but I think a big part of that is because he's not put in the right position to succeed. They have a lot of ball dominant wings and guards like THT, Russell Westbrook, and LeBron, and not enough players that do other things around them. Like you add Carmelo Anthony, you add Wayne Ellington. Okay, great shooters, but they, at this point in their careers, I mean, Melo was never a good defender, but Wayne Ellington's way past his prime. He's not a good defender. You add Kent Bazemore, who at this point, he's not really good at anything. You sign Kendrick Nunn, and okay, you don't expect him to not play. And that's a blow, but it's not like Kendrick Nunn is going to turn this team in 12 games better. And then obviously injuries have played a significant part, but injuries happen with Anthony Davis every year. And with LeBron in the last few years, you know, he's been, you know, the guy's 37 years old, and he's one of the most incredible players I've ever seen. He's one of my favorite players of all time. But Father Time is undefeated. And Father Time, even though he's averaging 30 points per game, he definitely cannot carry the load like he once did. And by that, I mean, he cannot play both ends of the floor like he did, obviously, once before. And it's obvious. And he's, you know, that's why he's getting worn down. He's not even playing a full season, and he keeps getting hurt. And this is a guy that never got hurt, ever. That was what LeBron was so good. He was so durable. And now he can't do that. But this is a team, I mean, this season has been utter disaster, and all we keep hearing is all these rumors about whose fault it is. Was it Clutch's fault? Was it LeBron's fault? Was it AD's fault? The front office seems to be in disarray. We've heard reports that other GMs don't even want to negotiate with Rob Pelinka because they don't like him and they think he's a dirty dude. I mean, it's just disaster, and the Lakers are gonna have to tear this entire thing down, I think, and build it back up. But before I get to that, I do want to get to this Russ quote tonight. This was him in the post game. Let's take a listen to it real quick.
What do you think should change?
Winning.
Okay, that's obvious. What do you think should change?
Winning. Winning games, playing hard. You ask a question, give an answer.
That's all. You got the answer to winning? You have the answer to winning?
I'm not out there playing. You know, I think you give me the answer, but you think.
Exactly. So I don't have the answer.
You know,
exactly.
If you don't have it, you out there.
So if you ask me to have an answer, you don't have it either.
Well, but I don't play, Russell. I want to get the information from you, so that
I'm only one person, Jim.
Right.
It's a team game, so I don't have an answer.
Okay.
I may have it.
I don't have it.
So good.
But I'm asking the pros who know the game, play the game, what you think you can do to make it your part, their part, everybody's part. That's what I'm asking.
No, I really that. Okay, respect that. Okay. You got that? You got that? You got it?
No, respect.
It's all good. It's good. You got that? All right, cool. You got.
I mean, dude, if you've been paying attention to the Lakers post game and the questions that Russ has been getting asked, because I mean, Russell Wilson is definitely having his worst season of all time. I don't think that's really arguable at this point, but he's really been voicing his frustration in these post games, and you know, rightfully so. Like a lot of, you know, he goes to LA, that's his home, right? And you know, he's really struggling, and Lakers fans, I mean, they were positive at first, and there's some Lakers fans I know that are still positive, that are still, you know, backing Russ, but majority of them are like, hey man, like this shit ain't working, like this dude stinks. You know, he's averaging 3 turnovers a game. He's had numerous highlights or lowlights, I guess I would say, where he shoots it and the ball's bouncing off the backboard, the side of the backboard. I mean, it's just been a disaster for Russell Wilson. And, you know, I definitely, obviously, I don't think he imagined this season to go this way. And, you know, we could back it up and say, you know, maybe if AD and LeBron were healthy the entire season, you know, maybe they do right the ship at some point, but they really haven't been healthy all year. So really, it's like, where do you go from here? Because you have Westbrook, LeBron, and AD locked up next year, and you really have no cap room to do anything because of those 3 guys. So you have to trade. You have to trade one of them. Anthony Davis and LeBron are probably the 2 easiest to trade because Westbrook at this point has like 0 trade value. Windhorse comes out today saying that the Lakers are definitely going to pursue an Anthony Davis trade. I'm not sure how LeBron feels about that because I mean, LeBron's the type of guy, you know, he deserves to have some input. Whether you agree, whether you think his input sucks or whatnot, he deserves it, dude. He's that great of a player. He's been there. He's done that. And so you got to kind of give him that respect. Or you can even go to him and say like, hey, man, what do you think about being traded? You know what I mean? Because the Lakers, post LeBron at this point, they have no draft picks. They have very few draft picks. And they have no good young players unless Talen Horton-Tucker turns it around. Austin Reeves is, I mean, he's a nice piece. I think you could play him, but, I mean, he's a role player at best in his career. So at this point for the Lakers, I mean, it's very grim. Like, how do you upgrade your roster? I think it's going to be very difficult, and I think it starts at the top. I think that Ginny Buss needs to look in the mirror. And all this stuff going on between Kurt Rambis and Rob Pelinka in the front office and stuff. I mean, come on, man. Like, what has Kurt Rambis done that he should be getting say over any front office moves? Like, that shouldn't be happening. You need to establish a culture, establish a type of front office where you have decision makers and you let those people do their jobs. And that's what the Lakers don't have. It seems like a lot of people giving their input and then nobody wants to take responsibility for anything. Oh, well, it was LeBron and Anthony Davis that wanted Russell Westbrook. And then you go to Clutch and LeBron, I didn't have any say in it. Yeah, I want Russ, but I didn't say go trade for him, you know? So at this point, it's like, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. And the Lakers need to figure this out. And will they figure it out? I don't know because, I mean, this seems to have been going on since Dr. Buss passed away. You know, it seems that the Lakers just can't figure it out. You got the Buss family fighting for power. And then you got, you know, Magic Johnson coming in. And then his thing with Rob Pelinka. Magic quits. Rob gets, you know, all the say. And then now we're finding out, does Rob actually have all the say? Like, what is going on with this team? I mean, this team is a fucking disaster. Excuse my language, but
That is one big pile of shit.
that is where the Lakers are at right now. An absolute pile of shit. I mean, this is a historic franchise, and for it to be crumbling like this, especially with LeBron being there, I mean, it's devastating. And I don't think LeBron really went there to go win a title. I don't think that was his intentions. I mean, obviously he wants to win a title, but his legacy is set in stone. And I think the Lakers want LeBron to be a Laker when he passes Kareem, because then they could say, okay, a Laker, you know, it's good. It's good PR. It's good publicity, especially for a team that isn't going to win a ton of games. But, you know, maybe you can go out and trade Anthony Davis for, you know, a package of a couple young players and a couple draft picks and kind of what's the word that I'm looking for? Just build your assets back up, because it's in shambles right now. You got to rebuild the farm, you know what I mean, and get it back up and get it going. Definitely need to get a new coach. I think I definitely think he lost the locker room at maybe early on in this season, and I don't know why the Lakers didn't move on from him. But they didn't, and here they are, gonna miss the play-in. probably just a terrible situation for the Lakers, and they gotta really dig in and look themselves in the mirror this summer and figure stuff out. But I definitely expect Anthony Davis to get traded. Russell Westbrook, he's gonna be more difficult to trade because of his salary, but he is on an expiring deal, so maybe a team that isn't planning on winning or contending next year takes on his salary for a draft pick, for like a second or first round pick, and they're like, hey man, like we'll take on the salary, you could dump it on us. But then again, if all these rumors are true that nobody wants to work with Rob Pelinka, then I mean you got to move on from Pelinka and get somebody else in there, because then it's gonna be nearly impossible to trade Russell Westbrook. And I think that's the one thing as fans that we often forget, is that like these are humans running these teams, and whether you want to admit it or not, there's definitely people that you like and dislike, and it's the same in the NBA world. Like if you don't like somebody, you're less likely to work with them, right? So if it's true and all these people don't really like Rob Pelinka, man, sucks to be a Lakers fan, I guess. But definitely something to look forward to this offseason, how the Lakers can get out of this fucking disaster of a season they had this year. Didn't even come close to 54.5 wins, which was their over-under. And the crazy thing, too, is they were 7-2 odds to win the championship to begin the year. And, oh, man, it's just crazy. Absolutely insane. Let's move on to the Final Four, though. It's been a crazy tournament. If you tapped into Taproom, I wasn't really excited about the Elite Eight. The Elite Eight was kind of boring. Like every game, like there wasn't really any close games. UNC handled St. Peter's, which I thought was going to happen. I thought the Miami-Kansas game was going to be a lot closer, but Kansas really fucking put the pedal to the metal in the second half, and honestly, it looked like Miami kind of quit out there, to be honest. And then the Houston-Villanova game was probably the closest. That was a decent game, but I mean, Houston really was like the closest they got was within 3. Couldn't really hang in there. Villanova loses Justin Moore, though, which is huge. Duke really handled Arkansas. Arkansas just didn't have enough talent. Duke really shut down Note, and nobody else could really do anything. Duke is a very, very deep and talented team, and they're starting to play well at the right time. And then obviously North Carolina smacked St. Peter's, which it was bound to happen at some point. The St. Peter's story was awesome. It was cool while it lasted. And that's what March is really all about, is that St. Peter's story. The first 15 seed to make the Elite Eight. I mean, it was a spectacular run. You couldn't have pictured it any better. And for St. Peter's, they captivated America. The Cinderella captivated America. But the clock struck midnight against North Carolina, and North Carolina took them out. And North Carolina is a team that, if they didn't beat Duke in that final ACC game, they would have probably had to win the ACC tournament to make the big tournament, the March Madness. So the fact that they are as far as they are is very impressive. That win against Baylor, I picked them to beat Baylor in my bracket too. And my bracket's in shambles, by the way. I don't even have a single Final Four team remaining. I mean, this shit is fucking up in flames, dude. Pretty sure everybody's in America, which is crazy because we have like Villanova, Kansas, Duke, and North Carolina in the Final Four, and like only 0.01% of people pick those teams. Oh, that's good. That's a good beer. Key Lime Pie by Abnormal Brewing Company. Get this one. That's a good beer right there. Imperial Berliner Weiss. I've never had an Imperial Berliner Weiss. You get something new every day. You get something new every single day.
Let's go, y'all.
But man, this Final Four is going to be good. And it would be even better if Villanova had Justin Moore. I think losing Justin Moore is a huge blow. But I still think that I think Villanova with Jay Wright. Jay Wright, if you're new to this podcast or new to hearing me or listening to me or anything about me, I love Jay Wright. Jay Wright is my favorite basketball coach ever. I think the world of that man. I think he is a special, special basketball mind. And this team is deep, dude. Colin Gillespie, he's an 11th year senior. Not really, but it seems like he's been there forever. Jermaine Samuels is really good. Eric Dixon is very solid. Caleb Daniels, Brandon Slater. I mean, this is a team that has a lot of they're deep, dude, but they're not big net per se, but I mean, like, dude, they handled Houston, who handled Illinois, and they really kept Houston at bay the entire game. Only won 50-44, but I mean, they shut them down. Villanova is one of the best defensive teams in the country, and every year Jay Wright does this. They don't get a ton of blocks. They don't like protect the rim, but they do not let you penetrate inside the paint. And that's what a lot of teams like to do. They like to penetrate, kick out for a three, or continue, or, you know, a defense closes out and then they attack the closeout. Kansas, on the flip side, they're playing very well. You know, they handled Miami 76-50. They didn't cover against Providence, but they beat them by 5. They were up big in the first half. Let Providence kind of come back in. Beat Creighton. Creighton was a little under manned, and then beat Texas Southern. Beat Texas Tech in the championship, Big 12 championship game. Beat TCU, who is very hot heading into the tournament, and West Virginia. But Kansas is led by Ochai Agbaji, who is in the running for National Player of the Year. But really, what's been impressive for them is that Remy Martin has really stepped up. Remy Martin is a graduate transfer from Arizona State. He led the Pac-12 in scoring last year with 19 points per game. He was kind of nowhere to be found this year. Had a down year, but here he is. He's making big plays in March when it matters, and he's taking a ton of pressure off of Agbaji. Mitch Lightfoot is also playing well. He's a senior. Kansas is one of the more experienced teams in the country, and they're one of the more experienced teams left in this tournament, except for Villanova. Villanova is more experienced. Colin Gillespie's won a national title. Jermaine Samuels has won a national title. I mean, you got guys that have been there and done that on this team. I think it's going to be tough for Villanova to win this game, but I like Villanova plus the points, plus 4.5. I think they have enough to cover. I think Colin Gillespie, I think the world of that kid. I think he's a great leader for this team, and I think Jay Wright I think he can do enough to scheme against Kansas, getting a week in preparation. So give me Villanova with the points, and then we're going to talk about North Carolina and Duke. And I mean, like, the NCAA couldn't have written this better. Like, this is exactly what the NCAA wanted. Like, Coach K's last ride, and then you get North Carolina and Duke meeting for the very first time in program history in the NCAA tournament on Coach K's last ride. Like, you literally cannot make this up. And here we are. And Duke's playing great, dude. Duke is playing absolutely phenomenal. Paolo Banchero has been great. He didn't put up a ton of points. He shot pretty poorly against Arkansas, but he was able to find open guys. AJ Griffin, Trevor Keels, Wendell Moore, Jeremy Roach is playing very well. I mean, this is a team that they have 4 first-round draft picks on this team. They got 4 guys that are gonna get drafted in the first round. But North Carolina, on the flip side, Caleb Love is playing very well. Baycott is one of the best rebounders in the country. Brady Manick, he's a senior transfer from Oklahoma. He played in the tournament last year. Leaky Black is a 6'8" senior, and he's playing very well in the tournament as well. I mean, this is a team that throughout the season they were very inconsistent. They didn't really play up to their potential, I would say, but now they're playing very well, and they're a dangerous team. I mean, they smacked Baylor. I know that game went to overtime, but before Manick got ejected, I mean, they were up by 20 points, and they were handling Baylor. And Baylor's one of the best teams in the country. And North Carolina, you know, they love to get up and down. I like North Carolina plus the points here. I definitely think they're gonna hang. Unlike the Elite Eight, I think both of these games are gonna be close games. I don't think we're gonna have a blowout in the Final Four. I think these are gonna be close games, and I like the over in North Carolina Duke, because every time these teams meet, they go over 160 points, and the over under is 151 right now. So I definitely like the over there, and I like North Carolina plus the points. They're shooting the three ball very well now. They're also defending the three very well, and they're defending in general very well. So I like North Carolina plus the points. I do think that they're gonna. I don't think necessarily they may win. I think Duke is the better team, but if there's a team that can beat Duke, I mean, North Carolina's already done it. They did it at Cameron Indoor. I do think that Duke had like a lot of emotion in that game though, as it was Coach K's last game. So I do think that you have to factor that in there here. But I mean, this could very well be a lot of emotion too with Coach K being in the Final Four again. And Duke, you got to understand, is very young. They have a lot of young guys. North Carolina, a lot of more upperclassmen, so a lot more experience. So it wouldn't shock me if North Carolina pull off the upset. So I'm gonna take the dogs in both games, and I'm gonna take the over as well in the Duke North Carolina game. I like those both.
It's in the game.
Thank y'all for joining me tonight. Thank you for tapping in with me. Make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix. You can hit us up on YouTube. You can go to taproomsportspodcast.com and find it all. We are being brought to you by Tavour. Make sure to go to Tavour.com or download the Tavour app straight to your mobile device and use promo code TAPROOM for $10 off your first purchase of $25 or more. You can find beer like this Abnormal, Berliner Weiss, Imperial Berliner Weiss, sorry. It's a good one, man. It's very good, and they got a lot of stuff on there delivered straight to your front door once a month. So make sure to check that out. Doing us a favor so we can continue to put out this content. I'll be back for TSP Wagers tomorrow night with Ben. We'll be talking some NBA, NHL action, getting some good bets in for Thursday. And then we'll be back with Eddie on APR this week, breaking down more USFL teams. Going to get ready for the USFL season. We got baseball coming up, so make sure to tap into the Taproom Sports Podcast every Sunday night. We go live 9 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you can't catch that, you can catch the podcast again on Apple or Spotify. I'm talking way too much. I'm going to get out of here. Thank y'all for joining me. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Catch me on Twitter at JordanRulesTSP. Catch me on TikTok, JordanRulesTSP. Woo! We out of here. Thank y'all.
It's in the